Traitor King, who exactly are we talking about today? Hi, good morning, Neil Sean here in the very heart of London. Nice to see you today. Always nice to have your company. Hope you're all keeping well. Gorgeous day again, isn't it? Just too nice. Do you know, I was saying to someone though recently, I think this could be our summer. Is it like that where you are around the world? You get a few nice days, you go a bit batty, don't you? And then, you think, oh, maybe that was it. Maybe that was spring and summer combined. However, this particular Breaking Royal story is a little bit sad, a little bit annoying, but as ever, apparently it's historically, well, of interest. Let me explain the reasons why. Now, as we all know, way back in the 1930s, Edward decided to abdicate from the throne because he found a woman that he loved and basically wasn't allowed to marry her. Bit of a similarity, isn't there, when you think about that particular story, when you think. Of course, it moved on quite a few times over 75 years, but this particular documentary called The Traitor King is now retreading that path, but it's not all about Wallis Simpson. Wallis Simpson, of course, has become part of folklore as the most derided woman in history. And when you do look back at the press reports and, the sort of scandalous things that they wrote about her, you can understand exactly, in the world of social media today, how difficult it must have been while she was living out at Bryanston Court, which is just by Marble Arch. We took you there a few months back, if you remember. Amazing place, of course. She lived there with Ernest Simpson while the King regularly visited. But this particular documentary focuses on a darker aspect of the British monarchy, and this is all to do with the former King's association with a terrible dictator who we all know, of course, as Adolf Hitler. Now, according to the makers of this documentary, they've unearthed some brand new revelations, some unseen footage, documents, and are speaking to people related to that particular period in time and history. Now, we're never quite sure exactly the story because, as we all know in history, things get muddied. The story goes that Adolf wanted, of course, the former king to become chummy because if he did manage to take England, the United Kingdom, then he would put him back on the throne, or allegedly that was the loose promise. We're not quite sure how true that is. According to the documentary makers, this is of interest because it's historical, factual interest. But given the fact that our gracious Majesty the Queen is celebrating her Platinum Jubilee year, and more importantly has suffered quite enough already this year, and we're only into the third month, what with Andrew, the continuing saga with Harry and Meghan, and of course her battles with, sadly, some ill health, you would have thought that Channel 4, which is partly publicly funded and partly owned by the BBC, they would have, well, thought let's go down a celebratory route. Oh no. Not Channel 4, even though they have very few viewers left, and I suspect even less when they realise when this particular documentary hits this weekend, they're ploughing ahead and saying that this is all in the interests of the monarchy's history. The Traitor King, as I say, I've seen elements of it so far. I wouldn't say it tells you anything new, and I wouldn't sort of say it's really historically interesting. What I do think is it's once again a bit of an attack on someone who truly, at 96 years of age, should not be treated this way. I'd love to know what you think to this particular story. As ever, I truly mean that in the comments below. It does seem appalling, doesn't it, that the relentless sort of attacking never stops for our gracious Majesty the Queen. And when you think about it, she's had an unblemished record, so you can only think what's coming for the next one. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.